This won't be going the distance. Someone's going to be sniffing the pack. We got Mr. Stick and Move versus Stick to Attack. It's going to be ending with the smack. Hitting like crack. We got an IG model versus Samurai Jack. Yeah, baby, yeah. Alright, guys. Jiri Prochazka versus Ulberg. Now, when you see this screen and you know it's a Kenny Okoye stylistic breakdown, I never get these wrong. Even for the Adesanya Piper one, I picked Piper to win. When I did my stylistic breakdown video, I just changed my opinion after the video. Let me just say this. If I end up changing my opinion, because this one was really close, just take my word for it for the stylistic breakdown, because when I watch all this footage, I watch a lot of footage. I haven't watched footage like this in a long time, I can't lie. But it's because this fight stylistically is so enticing to me. Because it's such a battle of styles at the highest level. And it's really hard to pick a side confidently because, you know, it's one of those ones. Now, when Khalil was going against Jiri Prochazka, I told you guys, if it was 5 rounds, I know Yuri's hands down going to win. If it's 2 rounds, I know Khalil's hands down going to win. But it's 3 rounds. And I picked Jiri because I came off the decision of Khalil gassing in 2 rounds. So that one was very logical despite people thinking it was close. This one's interesting because it's 5 rounds with Jiri Prochazka, so that already leaves so much question marks, you know. But I did the footage, guys. I did the footage. I watched a lot. Fuck, this man, I'm sick of watching these two on my screen. I will say their fights are like, mostly Yuri's fights are very fun, so I was able to watch them pretty happily. I'm not saying Ulberg's boring, but like his Blachowicz fight I watched back a couple hours ago. Watched back a little bit of his Uzdemir fight. And I can't really find a full clip of his Uzdemir fight, but I watched from what I've seen from it back. Not bad, you know. Ulberg's fights he fights very specific, and I'll give him that. And he wasn't always fighting like this, which actually leads me to my first point. Before we get into like the striking breakdown, grappling breakdown, and like my things to note and all that, let's start with their notable losses and why they're so notable to me. First with Jiri, his notable loss, of course, Alex Pereira. Now this is a great fighter to lose to. But he just couldn't deal with Pereira's kickboxing, which I feel like is the most important thing to get from this, is that the thing that beat him in that fight wasn't necessarily he was so much worse than Pereira. It was that he couldn't deal with the kickboxing caliber of Alex Pereira. Stylistically, Ulberg's the most similar to Alex Pereira, in my opinion, as far as people Jiri has fought. Yuri's also fought Rakic. I watched that literally right before I clicked record. That was like the most recent fight I watched. Rakic had a similar approach to Pereira where he kind of took away Yuri's front leg. But Jiri was just being Jiri. One thing I know about Jiri, guys, Jiri always gets low kicked for a reason. I'm going to talk about that for his striking pros and cons, but he actually gets more powerful as you fucking start to break him down, which is actually a very scary talking point. But with Pereira, it was that Pereira could break his base with the low kick, specifically addressing the second fight, because it seemed like Pereira hadn't figured out there. The first fight, Jiri had moments like catching Pereira just being Jiri. You know, second fight, Pereira really showed that if you break the base with your low kicks, it opens up the hands a lot more. And Pereira happens to have a really good left hook. You know who else has a good left hook? Ulberg. You know, Pereira has really good low kicks. You know who else has a good low kick? Ulberg. I've noticed a lot of stylistic similarities with this, with the only guy that Jiri really struggled with. Like, he struggled with bad. The first fight, yeah, you could say it was competitive, but like he figured him out eventually. And then the second fight, it was almost like not very close at all. You know, Jiri was trying to clinch to mix it up, but like it seems like someone with like heavy hands, which I do feel like Ulberg has. You guys got like looking at some of his fights, he does have power, especially in that hook and his 1-2 and his straight. You know, his left hook and straight right are both beautiful. So I do think this is a notable loss because of stylistic similarities. However, the same can be applied to Carlos Ulberg, which makes this fight very interesting to me. Of course, 2021 was his last loss, and he couldn't deal with Kennedy Nezachuk, the Nigerian nightmare. Yeah, baby, yeah. He couldn't deal with this pressure in like the dogfight. It wasn't that he was actually doing... The funny thing about this is that Nezachuk wasn't crazy on the output. He was kind of just high guarding, weathering the storm, because he did get hurt a bit early. He weathered the storm and just overall outworked and outpaced Carlos Ulberg. Something to note about this that I noticed. Ulberg, this is the only Ulberg fight with over 100 plus strikes. You're never, if you look through all Ulberg's fight, he never threw 100 plus strikes, even when he goes the distance. And he's never been 3 rounds, yes, but you guys got to realize it wasn't even full 2 rounds when he had 150 strikes landing on Nezachuk. What happened in that fight? He had Nezachuk hurt, so he unloaded a gas tank, which led to him fatiguing, you know, and it led to him just getting broken. Stylistically, I think Jiri will cause chaos. And when you are getting forced into chaos, you inadvertently are going to throw more to either A, keep the guy away and make them respect you, or B, because you feel overwhelmed. That's very interesting here. I know it's 5 years ago, and I said Ulberg has changed. Guys, his physique doesn't even look the same. He looks like a lot heavier now. which you would think would be a negative thing to his endurance when you think about it. But I just think it leads to him carrying more power, because now I'm starting to see him one pop guys and one shot guys and hurt guys very significantly. So his physique change, I think, done more beneficial things than harm. As well as the fact that I just feel like he's a lot smarter. Like, he did throw over like 150 strikes in this fight, dude. And the fight that he has the second most strikes with went the distance. I believe it was Uzdemir with like 96. You know, against Blachowicz, he only landed like 76 significant strikes against Blachowicz. And it's because he fought the fight at his pace. But those are 3-round fights, which is something notable. But I do think the notable loss with Kenan Nezuchuku is very important, because he lost that fight because he fatigued and got overwhelmed by pressure and tried to keep Nezuchuku off him by hitting him hard, and ended up getting in a dogfight where he got caught and knocked out by Kenan Nezuchuku, who's not known for knockout power at all. Jiri is more of a finisher than Nezuchuku. If you're getting overwhelmed and caught by Nezuchuku, chances are Jiri could do the same. It might take a bit, but Jiri can't do the same. So now that I addressed their notable losses, just because I feel like stylistically, the people you're losing to kind of simulates the other guy in a sense. Of course, Nezuchuku is not as dangerous as Jiri, which is a little bit more significant of a point. But then again, people could just turn around and be like, okay, but that was 2021. Ulberg's changed. Neither here or there. Let's get into the actual stylistic breakdown, starting with the striking. Striking pros, unorthodox and weird. Let's be honest, Jiri's going to go in there, be unorthodox, and be very weird. He's just how he is. He fights like a goofball. He stance switches a lot. He's comfortable in both southpaw and orthodox. I do think orthodox is his primary stance, but he does switch stance pretty well. Overwhelming presence and volume, and I said late in parentheses because that happens a lot more later in the fight. Or like I pointed out, if you're taking away his front leg early, he has no choice but to be reckless. As well as slick head movement sometimes. I had to say sometimes, because people do look at the Jamal Hill fight like, wow, dude. Yeah. Guys, Jamal Hill swings the most telegraphed looping overhands with no footwork. Jamal Hill's a twerp, dude. Jamal Hill's a little twerp. Nah, shout out Jamal Hill. He has no ACLs, though. Like, against Jiri, it was kind of just easy pickings, in my opinion. I did think that fight was going to be close. It was pretty close, unironically, but Jiri is I don't know. Jiri just seemed a little bit to me in that fight, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I can't really take too much away from that fight because, like I said, different oppositions. But what I do think he's good at is his overwhelming presence and volume. That's probably his best weapon. His unorthodox weird stance switches, unironically, guys, I don't want to say does more harm than good, but it leads to him getting caught a lot and touched a lot. Pause. But I'm going to put it as a pro because it also leads to him getting some wild sequences in his finishes. But I really think the finishes come less from him being weird and more from him being overwhelming with his presence in there. Listen, if Jiri was just overwhelming with his presence and did a lot less weird shit, he actually might be better. Like that sounds, he actually might be better if he just keeps the same like energy, but he's a little bit more smart with it. But he wants to just fucking do one of these, man. He's always fucking hitting on his chest, man. Dude, watching his footage is kind of funny because I was like, I could like predict what he's gonna do next. Ulberg is like a student of the game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he like sees a lot of things coming of what he has, like, what Jiri has planned. Neither here or there. That's his pros that I feel like he does the best. He does have a lot of cons though. First of all, he's a slow starter. People actually don't know this about Jiri. They think Jiri just starts like Jiri. That's not true. After watching damn near all his fights, guys, I'll tell you right now, he is a slow starter. He starts and he takes his time doing weird shit. And usually while he's doing this weird shit, he's getting low kicked. He's getting hit. He's getting touched up. He's losing the fight. Very rarely do I see Jiri win a first round. Unironically, one of the few people he won a first round against was actually Alex Pereira in the very first fight because he mixed in wrestling and took him down, Outside of that, guys, him winning a first round is very weird. Like, it's unlikely almost. Like, Rakic beat him pretty comfortably in that first round, I remember. Jamal Hill and him had a back and forth first round. Of course, Khalil Rountree beat him the first two. He just doesn't necessarily start the quickest. So sometimes it takes him either getting beat up, which sounds crazy, to like wake up, or just him finding his range, which usually takes more than a round. So he is a slow starter, which is not the best thing to do, in my opinion, in some of his fights because it leads to him being behind and needing a late finish. He's very heavy on that front leg. Now, I say people target his low leg for a reason. He's just so heavy on it. The thing about him is that his whole style is relying on him being explosive and wild, which leads to him needing to be on his front leg more so he can explode into combos. Brother, like, I understand this guy, and I could relate to this, brother. Even though I'm not the fighter, when I spar and stuff, like, I'm very heavy on my front leg because I rely on my athleticism to, like, bounce out of the way, bounce in, Jiri does the same thing. Like, but the thing is, you're very heavy on that front leg, so it's just not hard to low kick you. I also said hittable. This kind of ties into him being heavy on his front leg and also his stupid, like, I said slick head movement before that, but In the first round, that head movement is not that good. That head movement's actually the best when they're late in the fight and it's very sloppy from what I've seen from his footage. When people get sloppy, that's when he tends to wake up in the head movement because he just knows how to move. Almost like his head moves in slow motion, but so is the punches in the third, fourth round when someone doesn't have that much steam behind it. So that's when he starts to slip and rip. But before that happens and his opponents are fatiguing, he's usually very hittable. Like, he was already headbutting, I believe, Uzdemir's fucking jabs and shit. He's not hard to hit. All right, he's not hard to hit. It's just how he fights. So those are big cons. The biggest con for me is he's very heavy on that front leg. Specifically, it's a con because he's going against Carlos Ulberg. And what is Ulberg's pros? Great low kicks. So you're going to be heavy on that low leg. Just know you're going to get met with a lot of low kicks, Shibai, brother. If you're not ready for low kicks, brother, beat it. I also said left hook and right hand, they're great. He has a great left hook coming in and going backwards, as well as a great right hand. He can step into it. I'm pretty sure that's how he knocked out Reyes, stepping in with that right hand and just putting him out, bro. And then he has so much check left hooks that people sometimes walk into. He was using it a lot against Jan Blachowicz, too. Jan Blachowicz was kind of smart with it, didn't really walk into it fully. But Jiri is the type to walk into something, eh? Like, Yuri's not going to not walk into something. Yuri's going to walk into something on purpose. And then, whatever happens, happens. But I don't think it's good to walk into someone as dangerous as Ulberg, which is why Blachowicz was a little bit tentative and hesitant at times and kind of just eating low kicks and trying to go tit for tat. But I watched back that fight. People thought it was controversial. I do think it was a pretty clear win for Ulberg. Rounds 2 and 3, in my opinion, he won. Rounds 1 was pretty close, but I could still even give that to Ulberg. So, yeah, it's just that you got to take a risk against Ulberg or you're going to get outpointed. The thing is, though, I know Jiri is going to take a risk, but he just got to be careful when he's taking the risk and not to get caught with a left hook or something heavy from Ulberg, because Ulberg's countering, in my opinion, is actually his best weapon. Well, I lied, because when I think about it, his distance management and his movement is his best weapon. He moved a lot against Blachowicz and very well. Same with this fight against Uzdemir. Moved a lot, very well. He even knows how to put the pressure on people, like against Reyes when Reyes was giving up the front foot. Usually he gives up the front foot, and he will give up the front foot against Jiri. He's going to stick to his stick and move style, which I like. I think he performs really well. He fights similar to how Izzy fought against Costa. That's how he usually fights. It said he just has more power in his left hook, and he steps into shots a bit more, and he has more power than Izzy. But he's really good at just low kicking and using the distance and understanding his surroundings in the cage, which is really big against Jiri, because Yuri's going to try to push you into weird situations and make you almost not even know where you are, and overwhelm you. So Ulberg's good, guys. His distance management, I think, is his best weapon behind his left hook and power. After. Distance management number 1 with his movement, and then his left hook is the second best with his right hand, and then his low kicks are great too. But I really think the way he moves is the best thing about him and the reason he's able to win fights. Now against Nezuchuku, he moved well until he almost hurt him, and then from there, like, you can see the footwork diminish because he unloaded the gas tank. But when he doesn't unload the gas tank, for the most part, he's very solid. I saw him against that Korean dude who he almost finished early too, but you could actually see when he had the guy hurt, he took some patience, it took some time, relaxed, and then he started to pick his shots again. So you can see he grew from that fight against Nezuchuku, especially when you watch his fights in damn near chronological order. But those are his pros. He has a lot of cons as well. One con is questionable cardio, and it's going to be his first 5-rounder against Jiri Prochazka. Shiba, it just sucks. No, it sucks. Having a 5-rounder is one thing. Having your first 5-rounder against someone who could just put it on you in the championship rounds, that's where a little bit problems start to commence for me personally. I just said his style not being built for dogfights is horrible, because that, you're going to have to stick and move for essentially 25 minutes, which is not easy to do unless you're Adesanya-esque in his prime, and just Yuri's ability to force dogfights is going to be tough for him, because if he gets in his dogfight, guys, I'm telling you right now, he's not going to win. There's no way he beats Jiri if he's trying to get in a dogfight with him. He's going to need to be disciplined for 25 minutes for his first 5-rounder, and he needs to surprise me personally with his cardio, which I think is doable considering how he fights. But like I said, I haven't seen him go 5 rounds, so it's very hard to gauge fully. But he needs to definitely avoid the dogfight and just keep moving against Jiri and keep making it pretty. As long as this fight looks pretty, it's going to be welcome in his hands. How do I see the striking comparison going, though? Field day for Ulberg, especially early. Low kick century, low kick, low kick, low kick. We're going to see Jiri buckle a little bit, but Jiri has shown me he could buckle from these low kicks, but he's always going to keep fighting. So I see him buckling a bit, but Jiri likely will, after he likely gets rocked, which I think could actually benefit him. People are like, how is Jiri getting rocked benefit him? When Jiri gets hurt, first of all, he gets more aggressive. But also, Ulberg, if Ulberg hurts him and tries to jump on him and doesn't finish him, the fight's over there. I'm telling you right now, if there's a moment in the fight where early in the fight, Ulberg hurts Jiri, jumps on Jiri, tries to finish it, unloads the gas tank, but doesn't get the finish, mama, the fight's over. No, the fight is lit. Like, if I was live betting, I'd immediately pull out all the money if I had on Ulberg, put it all on Jiri. If he jumps on the finish and doesn't get it, I'm sorry, it's over. You know, in late rounds, Jiri's chaos will is gonna favor him. Like later in the fight, once the chaos shit starts, it's almost gonna be downhill from there. You know, the best bet that if Jiri starts the chaos, hopefully it's late and hopefully Ulberg has enough gas to keep moving. Because if he doesn't, shibal, brother, it's over. Wrap it up, pack it up, and keep it pushing, brother. This is what I think, honestly speaking. But that's how I see the striking. Like, striking, I said early on, is probably going to be Ulberg. Masterclass, stick and move, beautiful, looking handsome, strong guy. He handsome guy. Brother, like me, him, like, you know, other people. We're the best looking in the UFC, so you understand this, you know. So if he keeps it pretty, he's going to win looking pretty. If he keeps it ugly, good luck to, congratulations to Jiri for being the interim. Is this a belt on the line, eh? It's like an interim title thing. Wait, is this even interim? I never even thought of that. Yeah, this is an interim thing. Oh my God, guys. What the? Wait, this is a title on the line. You know, I'm just realizing that now, eh? I've been under a rock. But yeah, that's a striking comparison. Let's go to grappling, which is not going to be big in this fight, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Grappling pros for Jiri. He will wrestle when needed. Against Pereira is like the times we see it the most. And solid clinch wrestling. Against Pereira, we saw he was able to lift him off his feet, kind of muscle him to the ground. You know, you wrestle when needed, but for the cons, like, he's not great fundamental wrestler. He has 3 takedowns in his entire UFC career. I believe he's at 60% for takedown accuracy. Just doesn't shoot them often. Kind of only shoots them when he's compromised. Against Pereira, he kind of had no front leg, so he had to, like, shoot him to kind of get a hold of him and just make something happen because he's kind of getting flustered. I actually can't see him shooting on Ulberg if he's flustered, but he's not, like, a fundamental guy who's going to take you down and maul you. That's just not Jiri's flow. As far as Ulberg goes, does initiate takedowns if needed, similar to Jiri. He's not easy to take down either with an 85% takedown defense. So if Jiri's trying to take him down because he's getting outstruck, it's not going to be roses and bubbles. I think he's going to try to take him down, but it's not going to go his way. What are his cons? Not great offensive wrestling. Similar to Jiri, he has a 60% takedown accuracy. Yeah, not bad, but just like he doesn't use it much. You know, he has took people down against Blachowicz. I remember him shooting against Blachowicz against the fence, but Blachowicz was just stuffing it. And he shot for no reason, too. He just shot to shoot. It was a little bit weird watching that Blachowicz fight back. He shot in the 3rd round late as well. Don't really understand the purpose from that. It didn't even look like he was shooting to score. Kind of just shooting to get a hold of him in a clinch and maybe try to work in a trip. But Blachowicz was a little bit too green to that. But again, the point is he'll shoot, but he's just not that great at offensive wrestling. So I don't really know why he does it. How does the grappling comparison work? I just said Jiri will likely shoot when his legs are compromised. Ulberg may actually wrestle too just later. And not really for... Maybe if he's getting flustered by Jiri, he's going to shoot. Maybe he's just going to shoot to mix it up. He even fakes... He like does little takedown feints. He was doing it against Blachowicz. You like fake a takedown for no reason. He wouldn't even follow up. He just fake a takedown. And like Blachowicz would bite on it a bit, but it's like... it's just not really in his... weaponry, so I don't know why he does it. Like I don't like I saw him fake it. I was like I don't even know why Blachowicz is biting on that. Like you don't do that, you know. So maybe he does it just to create space to gain respect or let people know, like, listen, I'm not one dimensional. Blur, you're one dimensional. You're not convincing me, you know, brother. I don't care if you wrestle one day your life. You're a kickboxer, you know. You New Zealand guy, act like it. So yeah, he'll I don't know, Ulberg might wrestle just for funsies, but if Jiri wrestles, it might just be for like, I'm getting hurt early, I need to hold on to you. And then yeah, maybe Ulberg will use some clinching if he's getting flustered later in the fight. That being said, let's talk about some things to note. Ulberg has never been 5 rounds, so his cardio is going to be very crucial and a very big talking point of how this fight actually goes. Jiri is chinny question mark. I said question mark because I don't know, like, guys, Jiri's like, he gets hit, you know, and I'm like, he just weird. He gets hit. He's like this. Yeah. Fuck are you doing? What are you doing, eh? Like, he gets hit. He's one of these. Bro, stop barking at me. Are you mad at me, brother? I didn't even hit you. I don't know. He just gets hit and he does weird shit. I remember he got upkicked by somebody. Who was it? Was it Reyes? He gets upkicked by someone and, like, falls flat on them. Like he's dead. He's actually temporarily knocked out. He said after the fight. I think it was Reyes. I remember him saying after the fight that I actually was knocked out there. It's just like, I'm not saying that's chinny behavior, but brother, I don't understand your chin, eh? You know, it's just not good because Ulberg hits hard, you know. I think it's a stylistic nightmare for both, though. I had to say that at the end. Like, for Ulberg, it's interesting because it's a stylistic nightmare because the amount of rounds he's fighting and the opponent he's fighting with for these given rounds. You know, if this was a 3-round fight, it's Ulberg no brainer, and I'm hitting the Dougie. I'm hitting one of these. Like, Ulberg would do what Khalil did just for 3 rounds, and then he wouldn't fatigue. I wouldn't really be worried about him fatiguing in 3 rounds. It's a championship experience that gets me worried. But then again, I've noticed that, like, sometimes you think people are just don't have championship cardio, and then they just show that, like, you know what? When I'm fighting my fight, I could really have championship cardio. Like, I feel like doubting someone's cardio who hasn't, like, yes, he doesn't really show he has bad cardio, but he showed that he punched himself out one time. And when he didn't pace himself properly, he tired. Maybe that was more of a lesson than him having bad cardio. I don't know for sure. But I know that's an asterisk I have to be notable of, especially for your first 5-round fight, especially against a guy named Jiri, because who the fuck wants to fight Jiri for 5 rounds straight? Why is it stylistic nightmare for Jiri? It's because actually stylistically, he just is a hard matchup. Someone who's great at low kicks, you know, against someone like Jiri, so heavy on that front leg, as well as someone who could run into shots goofily against someone who's a really sharp counterpuncher with heavy hands. You know, that's why it's a hard fight for Jiri. It's a hard fight for Jiri stylistically because stylistically, it's actually a wicked hard fight for Jiri. Whereas it's a hard fight for Ulberg, not because stylistically Jiri's such a crazy style, but it's because there's asterisks next to Ulberg's name considering his cardio, and the guy that he's going against has good volume and crazy presence. You know, it's not like Jiri is his counter via like, oh my God, Ulberg's weakness is like sometimes he hangs over himself and Jiri's just really sharp. It's not really that. It's more like a cardio essence or base thing. You know, me thinking about Ulberg in 2021, you know, which sounds, it really brought me down to like a line where I didn't know who to pick before this video. You know, but sometimes I speak to myself, like, and while I'm speaking, you know, things make sense. I understand what this fight is. I do. It's 2 talented light heavyweights, you know, fighting each other, but one's actually more talented than the other, and Ulberg's that more talented guy, and stylistically, Ulberg's a harder time for Jiri. However, Jiri's wildness and Jiri's presence can overwhelm the guy who hasn't been at the championship level. Jiri has fought for the title multiple times. Ulberg has not. You know, that being said, I have to pick someone. You know, I have to. This fight is close, but I ended up going with, and let me just say this. Let me just say this before I go to the next slide. Before this fight started, I was Team Jiri. Main prediction video yesterday dropped. I was Ulberg. I watched footage today. I was Jiri in the middle of watching Jiri footage and then watching the Ulberg fight back with Nezuchuku. Then I watched some Jiri fights with Pereira. I was a little bit. Then when I was typing in the slide, I read what I said because, like I said, everything I said here is just from facts. Like, I just base it off of facts. And when you read the slide and you look at the conditions, it led me to the realization that I feel like for the winner of this fight, it's going to be Ulberg by KO points. I think that's the pick that just makes the most sense for me. I think Ulberg will outpoint and compromise Jiri. Jiri can finish him, but it's late. It'd be late, and that'd be risky. Me putting my eggs in Jiri's basket saying he could finish him in the championship rounds is a bit risky. Why? Because I think there's a more likely chance that Ulberg's going to KO Jiri in the first 2 rounds. Why? Because Jiri's a slow starter, and then when he first gets the initiative to be aggressive, he puts his chin on the platter. He's very hittable. I do think Ulberg has power in his hands, and I do think Ulberg fundamentally is a smart striker. You know, so that makes me believe that Ulberg by KO is more likely than Jiri by KO. So if I believe Ulberg is more likely to KO Jiri, and if I believe that this fight was to go the distance, it was going to favor Ulberg, then I have 2 ways of Ulberg winning, which are more likely than 1 way of Jiri winning, which leads me to the belief that Ulberg's skill should get him the win in this fight rather than Jiri's wildness. Now, Jiri has beaten people like Jamal Hill, who are kind of overrated, people like Khalil Ranchi, who legitimately have 2-round endurance because their fight style. You know, whereas I've seen Ulberg go the distance against people like Blachowicz and Oezdemir, who are pretty solid fighters, you know, and not look tired in those fights because he paced himself appropriately. Ulberg's biggest weakness being his cardio is me being suspect of him for his Nezuchuku performance, but he threw 150 strikes within 1 round and a half because he thought he had the guy hurt and tried to finish him, you know, and then he got into a brawl situation. He didn't move as smartly. I could blame that more of a mishap on Ulberg trying to get someone out of there on his UFC debut being overzealous. Like, it's his UFC debut. How harsh can I be on the guy? If it was late in his fight, late in his career, maybe, but like, that was his UFC debut. Perhaps a lack of like awareness. You know, your first fight, you're trying to get a first round finish. It just doesn't work. Ulberg doesn't seem to be chasing the finish lately. Yes, he got against Reyes because he found Reyes' timing. Against Blachowicz, he just fought patiently, fought smart. Same one thing against Uzdemir because they're high-level fighters. I don't think he's going to go in there and try to land 150 significant strikes on Jiri like he did against Nezuchukwu in one round because he understands the threat with that. He understands his first 3-round fight. So I think he's going to fight sensible. He's going to use his movement, his distance management, and use his low kicks and counter punching to be able to get it done against Jiri Prochazka by KO or points. I actually see Ulberg KO very likely in this one. So I'm officially picking Carlos Ulberg. You guys know I'm pretty accurate when I pull out one of these slideshows, and this is not gonna be like Izzy. I'm not gonna switch the pick. I'm gonna stick with it. I got Carlos Ulberg beating Jiri Prochazka at UFC 327. I think Yuri's a dangerous opponent, but I don't think Yuri's wildness and awkward style is going to be enough to get it done against Carlos Ulberg and his techniques and his base and his understanding of his fight IQ. I do think fight IQ wins fights, and I do think Ulberg is going to be on paper the smarter fighter in this one. But let me know what you guys think. You know, I know I'm sure it's going to be mixed. Like I said, before watching footage, I was team Jiri because I thought he could just go in there and overwhelm him. But after watching footage, I'm starting to realize he's dangerous. He's young, he's quick, he's athletic, and he's powerful. And I think he's the guy who's going to go there and get it done against Jiri Prochazka. So let me know what you guys think. That's it for me. God bless. 2, 3, 4.